Chairman of the Fed, Jerome Powell, refuses to lower interest rates despite all economic markers indicating for months now that he should. And President Donald Trump has had it up to here with him, finally going out and now officially launching what I can only describe as an actual campaign almost against too late Jerome Powell. We are witnessing a masterclass right now from President Donald Trump in how to play power politics. Yesterday, announcing on his Truth Social account with just 15 minutes notice, announcing he was spontaneously going to inspect the construction and renovation being done on the Federal Reserve building, the same renovation and construction that somehow has cost $3.2 billion, according to some reports. Surprising Jerome Powell and showing up just 15 minutes later yesterday at 4 p.m. after tweeting it on Truth Social at 3:45 p.m. Catching Jerome Powell apparently off guard, or at least it looks that way. You want to see what awkward and uncomfortable looks like? Cringe alert. Take a look.
With the chairman, as you know. Chairman, come on over. And we're just taking a look at what's happening. You know, it's a tough construction job. They're building basements where they didn't exist or expanding them, and a lot of very expensive work. There's no question about it. And Tim has been with me for a long time, and you're in charge of the committee.
Indeed. One of the reasons I wanted to see it was the overruns of the expenses, wanted to figure out why.
Yeah. So we're taking a look, and it looks like it's about $3.1 billion. It went up a little bit, or a lot. So the 2.7 is now 3.1.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it just came out.
Yeah, I haven't heard that from anybody at the Fed.
Yeah, it just came out.
Our notes had it about 3.1 as well.
3.1.
3.2.
This came from us?
Yes. I don't know who does that.
So awkward, so embarrassing. Jerome Powell not even fully aware of the total amount of expenses being spent on the Federal Reserve constructions and renovations, having to be informed about it on the spot by President Donald Trump. Of course, Jerome Powell would go on to dispute this, saying that this was construction involving some other building or something of the sort. But the bottom line is he's wound up costing tax-paying Americans billions of dollars through sheer incompetency and unnecessary renovations and construction. And I gotta say, I'm no body language expert, but the fact that Jerome Powell was originally trying to stand that far off to the side, essentially out of the camera shot at all, it just looks like he's not comfortable with the president being in the Federal Reserve building inspecting everything that's going on. Nothing about him screams confidence. Nothing about him screams competency. He looks terrified. And there's another moment that happens shortly after this where you can just feel it. You can feel Jerome Powell's terror of some sort. This is a guy he's a worm. That's the only way I can describe it. He's a worm. Take a look at this.
Back off some of the earlier criticism?
Well, I'd love him to lower interest rates. But other than that, what can I tell you? The country's doing really well. I just briefed the chairman of the deal with Japan. Japan is putting up $550 billion in order to lower their tariffs a little bit.
They say a picture's worth 1,000 words, right? Take a look at that. Or how about this? That is not a very confident guy at all, and perhaps the reason why he doesn't look confident at all and looks like he wants to just dive out of the nearest window while Trump is inspecting the renovations at the building is because he knows he's incompetent and because he knows he's sabotaging the American economy, Trump's efforts to restore our economy, and overall hurting the American people. This is what Jerome Powell's legacy has turned into. So of course he looks like this. And this is why I say this is a masterclass in power politics. Just announcing randomly yesterday that you're going to show up and inspect the work, putting the head chair of the Fed on the spot like that is amazing to see. And this is why I, along with the majority of voters in America, put this man in office. Jerome Powell wound up being so embarrassed yesterday from all of this that he wound up not finishing the tour of the building with the president. He disappeared. We don't know where he went. I'm sure he came up with some excuse that he needed to get back to work as if he has anything else to do. He's literally not doing his job right now by not lowering interest rates, but he was probably hiding in some office somewhere. And so President Donald Trump took the time to take questions from reporters without Jerome Powell by his side, who could have provided some insight into some of these questions. But President Donald Trump nevertheless wound up proceeding to bash all of the stuff that's been happening with Jerome Powell and at the Federal Reserve building. Take a listen.
Number of construction sites. Did you see mismanagement going on or funds that aren't?
Well, I see a very luxurious situation taking place. Let's put it that way. And I was given a very nice tour by the head of construction. And, look, if you look over here, they're trying to open up the basement. When you open up a basement, first of all, it's the worst space. Always a basement is the worst space in a building. And it's also the most expensive space to build. And especially here because you have a water line. They're going down into the water, so they have to build what's called a reverse bathtub. The water has to be kept out. It's very expensive construction. So it would have been good if they didn't build it. Would have been good if they didn't do certain other things. If you look at the kind of protection in the hall, have you been able to get in the hall? You saw the protection of plywood. I mean, that was a lot of money just to protect it for a period of time. I would have done it very gingerly and easily and not have to spend, millions of dollars on protection. And there are things that could have been different.
Honestly, why does the Federal Reserve Building need a basement? Do they need more storage for files and paperwork? I don't understand the logic there. And he's absolutely right. I mean, this is the guy who knows real estate, right? That was his career for decades before assuming the office of president. A building that's already been built, to add a basement underneath that is insane. This was supposed to be, if I'm not mistaken, originally rooftop renovations. And the total estimated cost of renovations, if I remember reading correctly, they estimated around $200 million, which is still quite a fortune in all honesty, but nowhere near the amount now that they are over on. $2.5 million in oversight expenses, it seems, and it keeps going. That paper that Trump showed Jerome Powell when he visited, now putting the total cost of all this construction up to $3.1 or even $3.2 billion. What a waste. And I think this just summarizes what's wrong with American politics currently, and hopefully what Trump cleans up during this presidency. Luxury. This is what politicians are all about now. It's luxury. They don't care that they're spending hard-earned taxpayer dollars on luxury, things that are essentially not needed, but they're spending it anyway. Why? Because they feel like they deserve it. And that's the entitlement that is enwrapped in so much of our American political candidates nowadays. Let's add a basement, sure. Let's add in all kinds of ridiculous windows. Let's go really lavish with some of the offices and the rooftop, and let's add tons of stuff around it, a rooftop garden. Let's add a bunch of landscaping around the building. Why? But the beautiful thing in all of this is that the pressure campaign is on now. Power politics are being played, and it didn't end with a surprise visit from President Donald Trump yesterday at the Federal Reserve Building to see what kind of insane renovations they're doing on our taxpayer dollars' dime. No, Azoria, a large investment firm, is now officially suing Jerome Powell directly. He got served in the federal building with court paperwork just the other day for refusing to lower interest rates. Azoria claims outright that Jerome Powell is deliberately not lowering interest rates even though he should, and is deliberately trying to sabotage Trump's economy. Take a listen.
Filing a lawsuit today against Federal Reserve Chairman Jay Powell, alleging that the central bank is violating transparency law. The suit in part says this: Azoria believes the Federal Reserve is violating federal transparency law, and we are asking a federal judge to immediately block next week's Federal Reserve meeting from happening behind closed doors. Azoria is demanding the court order that the Fed to keep the meeting open as the company sounds the alarm on recent policy decisions, saying Azoria is deeply concerned that the FOMC under Chairman Powell is maintaining high interest rates to undermine President Donald J. Trump and his economic agenda.
I am delighted to see this lawsuit, and I 100% agree with it. They need to keep this meeting open. This should be a transparent meeting at the Federal Reserve so that everyone can figure out what the thought process is here going forward and why the interest rates haven't been lowered yet despite inflation cooling ever since Trump took office. For the record, like I've stated in previous videos, Trueflation markers have our inflation currently at 1.86%. And of course, liberals hate hearing this, and they like using the deliberately slow and laggy methods to track inflation. But even if you use those methods, our inflation is at 2.7%, yet our interest rates are at 4.4%. It makes no sense. Interest rates should come down at least a point, realistically, probably a point and a half, which would save us quite literally close to $500 billion. So not only is Jerome Powell costing American taxpayers $3.2 billion total on ridiculous construction for the Federal Reserve Building, but he's costing us infinitely more money because he refuses to lower the interest rates, allowing Trump to refinance American debt at a much cheaper rate if he would. And he should. All economic markers point to that. There's no reason for a 4.4% interest rate. And the pressure campaign continues from here. I mentioned this in another video, but I'll bring it up again. This is Anna Paulina Luna officially referring Jerome Powell to the Trump Department of Justice for a criminal investigation. She says Jerome Powell knowingly misled both Congress and the executive branch officials about the true nature of a taxpayer-funded project. Lying under oath is a serious offense, especially from someone tasked with overseeing our monetary system and public trust. And you can see there, Jerome Powell hit with criminal referral, essentially being hit with a perjury charge possibly. So he is being hit now from multiple fronts. Perjury, a lawsuit, and President Donald Trump constantly tweeting about him and now showing up randomly to inspect the Federal Reserve building, which coincides with this perjury charge, mind you. Trump now, with his own eyes, has seen the construction and the renovations taking place. Now the question will remain, will this finally get Jerome Powell to crack and either resign from his position or at least lower the interest rates as he should have already done months ago? Time will tell. I'll be staying up to date on all this because this is the only holdup at this point. This is the major only holdup left when it comes to Trump's economy. Everything is shaping up. Trade deals are being made in some cases multiple times in a day now with countries. These trade deals are amazing. Trump has racked up nearly $17 trillion in foreign pledged investments in just over 6 months' time. Our economy is getting set to boom. Inflation has been cooling. Gas prices have gone down. Egg prices that everyone was raging about is down. The big beautiful bill was finally signed, which is going to allow for incredible tax breaks for middle-class Americans and also help our economy even more. All we're waiting on is too late, Jerome Powell. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to American Advocates for more, unless you love Jerome Powell and you hope he's president one day and you hope that he never lowers interest rates for President Donald Trump. If that's the case, dislike this video. Don't like it. Dislike this video so that none of my videos ever get recommended to you again and never come back to this channel. Thanks so much for watching.